Over the last 6 months, our client has generated over 10,000 qualified leads from Coldemo alone. And it's been through 500 plus inboxes and contacting 21,000 plus people every single day. And in this video, I'm going to give you the whole breakdown of the accounts we set up, how we got this to happen, how we appointment set, how we wrote scripts, and etc. We're going to cover the A to Z, pull back the curtains, and show you all of the backend. Now, if you don't know who I am, I'm Felipe, and I help B2B businesses grow their pipeline consistently and predictably with Coldemo. And I've been doing so for over 5 years, and I've helped some of the biggest companies in the market. Now, without further ado, let's jump straight into this. I have opened right here one of the accounts, and in this one, we have contacted almost 2 million people already. You can see it right here. The reply rate has been a little bit over 7.8%, and the amount of opportunities collected from this were 10.8K. Now, what does that mean? That doesn't mean that these are the amount of deals closed. These are actually the amount of positive replies gotten from the campaigns. These are people that raise their hands saying that they were interested in the offer, which even if you are terrible at sales with 10.8K opportunities, you're going to close something and it's going to be meaningful. Now, also just to make the point, I'd like to open the email account so you have an idea of how many are in here. Right now, there are 670 Coldemo accounts in this specific Instantly account. And why 670, whilst I mentioned 500 plus in the beginning of the video, is actually because some of these accounts are backups. Some of these accounts are evergreen, just warming up, and they're getting ready for battle. They're not ready yet, and we're only going to pull them into the field as soon as we need them. So these are just resting accounts. We actually use around 500, 550 for the daily sending. So if you want to know more about what I mean with that, don't worry. We're going to break that down later on in this video. Also, I'd like to open the Unibox so you can see these are real accounts. You can see there's a lot of replies that come in through daily. Now, not all of them are positive. As you can see, as I'm scrolling through, you can see some of the blue icons. These are out of offices. You're going to see some reds in there. But overall, with this amount of sending and the offer that this client has, these are still very, very fantastic results. So if I were to open the interested tab, you're going to see right here the amount of people that are in this tab. There is a lot, and what matters the most are these. We are in the volume game, and we're in the game of screening, not in the game of convincing. So we're not trying to go for the highest lead rate possible because this is a very saturated offer in a very saturated market. We're actually screening for the people that want our offer already. So you will see some lower lead rates when you're looking at the lead rate overall. But still, those are fantastic numbers. To scale this company, when they came to us, they were struggling a lot with business. They were almost going under, and we were able to save the business with implementing Coldemo. Now, how did we accomplish that? Let me actually go ahead and show you how it was done. So, without further ado, let's jump straight into it. How do we send 21,382 emails a day on 500 plus active inboxes? Let me break down the whole infrastructure. Now, before I do so, it's important that we know a few things in order to process the information I'm going to be sharing with you today. First of all, is if you're sending these many emails, our primary goal is not to land in spam. And in order to know how not to land in spam, we need to know what is the definition of spam, okay? Definition of spam. And it is only two things that have to be true at once. You have to be sending emails in bulk, and these emails have to be unsolicited. Right? If you're doing these two things right here and you get caught, well, you're a spammer. So everything we're going to be doing today is trying to get around this definition of spam right here. So first, let's start by breaking down the tech involved in making that happen. So if you're thinking about not sending emails in bulk, we want to be sending very low volume and just have a lot of email accounts. We want to spread our weight across a big board, right? So therefore, what we're going to do is diversify all of our accounts. So here's what we did for them. And that's going to be domains and accounts. Okay. So let me put diversify all of our domains and accounts. So the way that we're going to do that is first starting from our identity. Okay. Why do we start with our identities? Because Google and Microsoft, they are actively trying to figure out if you're doing the snowshoeing type of strategy, because they do not want that. That is against their policies. They want instead for you to have one account, send all of your volume from that, and not be sending spam, meaning not be sending unsolicited emails in bulk. But when we want a system of this caliber and want to contact as many people, we will have to get around the rule and set up some of these diversified accounts with diversified identities. So how do we diversify our identity? I'll show you exactly how we did for this client. First, we set up anti-detect browsers, right? So these are browsers such as Incognition, okay? Note, this is not incognito, this is incognition, or such as ads power, or such as go login, etc. So we're setting up an anti-detect browser that does not have a fingerprint attached to them, meaning that if Google and Microsoft were to read the cookies in our browser, they would not be able to identify us behind these accounts. So we start there. Then we're going to have diversified IPs, and we're going for residential sticky IPs, such as, for example, you can get them in IP Royal, you can get them in PIA proxy, you can get them in etc. There's so many types of IP providers out there that you can get. If you want to have the absolute best IPs, I strongly suggest that you use what is called a mobile proxy, right? So you can get a mobile proxy. It's going to be way better than any others, but they are more expensive. They're a little bit slower and they may cause you some more trouble. So we actually stick with just these right here. So we don't do mobile proxies for this client because we're setting up so many accounts. We actually just stick to diversified IPs like these ones. Then the next thing that we're going to do on these accounts is add diversified phone numbers. And for that, you can use tools such as SMS Juice, Text Verified, and Online SIM, which I actually got the pleasure to meet the founder of in Georgia, the country. Shout out to him. But anyways, so diversified phone numbers. And then we're going to have diversified, this is going to be the last step, diversified identities, okay? And that is going to be no metadata on anything uploaded. Now, you may be asking if you're setting up all of this, or you're also diversifying your payments. And yes, if you can, diversified payment methods, right? And if you can, definitely go ahead, set up multiple temporary credit cards, right? So these are virtual credit cards, right? If you can set up all of this, now you've covered your identity when you're setting up these email accounts. And it may seem to you like, hey, wow, this is a lot of work. I don't actually want to go ahead and set up all of this crazy stuff. That feels already too crazy. Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to be sending this amount of volume to people that have never solicited your emails, you will have to get around all of the filters and bans that will come with setting up an infrastructure that is not diversified. And there's a lot of risk to that. You may just lose all of your money the moment you get flagged. So therefore, you want to consider diversification, at least in some capacity. Now, let's get to the next point here. Now that we talked about diversification of identity, let's talk about domains, right? So domains are the providers for you to be able to set up your emails to send all of this outbound. So for the domains, we actually use platforms such as GoDaddy, Cloudflare, Squarespace, and Porkbun. Those are the platforms that we use in all of our companies and that we set up for this client specifically. And for these, we only got .com domains. Why did we do that? Because .com domains were proven at the time that we set up these accounts 6 months ago that they were the ones that burned the least and they tended to last the longest and get the best deliverability rates. That is no longer the case on this day. So the new accounts that we're setting up, they may have different suffixes. You can set up different suffixes. It's been all right. Now that may change in the future. And if you want to know about that, well, keep on watching the videos in this channel. I'm going to keep on publishing if there is ever an update. But we use .com domains for the specific client. And so what we did is permutations of the original domain, right? So let's say if we were to take a permutation of my domain, felipe4.com, I would then create another domain that would be joinfelipe4.com with felipe4.com, felipe4us.com, etc., right? So I'll just go with permutations of the original domain. You can use AI to come up with these permutations for you. You don't have to come up with them yourself. So don't worry about that part. Now, from here, we set up DNS records. And the ones that we have set up for this client are very simple. They are SPF, DKIM, DMARC, MX records, and CNAME, which is a custom tracking domain, right? These are the DNS records that we set up. If you want to know how to set these up, do let me know. I could record a video on it, but it's actually very, very, very simple. I will actually include it in the checklist I'm going to be giving away for free down below in this video. So if you want to see the whole checklist on how to set this up and my recommendations, check out the document down below. It's free. You don't have to put your email, don't have to put anything. Just click the link and get access to the document. And I will add in there the DNS records that we use. No problem. So you can just copy those and not have to worry about it. But I'm not going to show in this video how we're going to do that just because that will take a lot of time. And I want to actually get to the meat of how we made all of these things perform. So we did all of that on the domains. And then for the redirects, we redirected to 10 different websites. Now, why 10 different websites? Well, I'm going for 500 email accounts for the specific client, right? In this case, 670. So I do have to diversify the redirects in order to look legit, but also not to give away that all of these accounts are from one company only. I'm going to mask all of the redirects with MailGuard. So that is the name of the tool that I use to oops, let me just fix that, to redirect all of my accounts. Now, you don't need to do that. I'll be very honest with you. This is something we tested extensively, and we are finding that it's not affecting deliverability. Changing the redirects, proxying them, all of that stuff seemed like it would make a huge difference, and we thought it made in the beginning, but it actually didn't. But because this doesn't add much cost, we're still running it for all of our clients because at some point it may matter. So you may want to be protected as well and set that up. All that it means is that instead of redirecting directly to a website, you first direct it to an already warmed up IP, and then you redirect it to the website. Okay, so that is the whole gist with the masking all of the redirects. And by the way, if I'm losing you with all of these explanations and it feels too fast, or it feels like, wow, there is a lot going on, well, bear with me. It's all going to make sense in a second. It's normal for it to be confusing if it is the first time that you're getting exposed to such a system. But again, if the system was easy, a lot of people would replicate it and get the same results. But because it's not, a lot of people are not replicating it, and that's why we literally dominated the market for the specific client. That's why we got those 10,000 plus opportunities with the system. So that is that on the domain side of things. Let's get now into the emails side of things. And for emails, we actually set them up on vanilla accounts. Okay. Now, what does that mean? Vanilla accounts are our absolute favorite. Those are Google, let me put it here, Google Suite and Microsoft 365 vanilla, accounts. And so what are these vanilla accounts? They are actually email accounts that you buy directly out of Google or Microsoft at the standard price at the original website. We are not buying from resellers. We are not buying from any other type of admin panel or discounted deals. And the reason for that is because we tested this extensively. Reseller accounts or discounted accounts or any type of other account that you're setting up Google and Microsoft, they are the first ones to get flagged, and they are the first ones to go down if ever you have deliverability issues. So we don't do that, and I don't recommend that you do it. The only viable way that I would say you could consider using reseller accounts is if you're okay with churning and burning, right? If you don't have a team in place to set this up the way that I'm showing you here, and fast is not important for you, you want cheap and fast, then yes, consider those accounts. I don't, and I don't recommend. So what we actually do is just Google and Microsoft vanilla accounts, regular licenses, and just a hell of a lot of them because they do maximize our return on investment. Okay, I'm looking for maximums. I'm not looking for minimums here. I don't care about the amount I'm saving. I'm caring about the money that I'm making, and in this case, that I'm making for this client. And so therefore, I'm going to go for all of these vanilla accounts. Then I'll add only real personas and real profile pictures. And important caveat, no metadata. So metadata is pretty much the information that goes behind your picture. So for example, if you go to your phone, I don't know if you have an iPhone, an Android, or whatever other phone, and you go to a picture and you click on information, you will actually see that there is some information about where this picture was taken. It will have the information about the time it was created, the time it was taken, location, etc. if you took this exact picture. So the no metadata part means removing that data, and it's actually very simple. All you do is you go to a website called Remove Active, plug in your photos, download them again, and they no longer have any metadata they can track back to you. So that is how we set that up. Now, how many email accounts do we get per domain? We got, let me put it here, we got 2 email accounts per domain max. Now, why is that? It's just because it's not as risky as putting more email accounts under one domain. It's not because there is this magical deliverability purpose behind of it. It's just a matter of protection. If we get accounts that somehow got burnt, it doesn't burn our whole domain and our whole admin panel with more than 2 accounts. So it's just a matter of protection. But if you're looking for cost savings, you could be adding some more email accounts under the same domain, okay? Connected to the same domain. Now, from here, what else do? We got the accounts ready. Now what we're going to do is what we call grandma Grammar behavior. What does that mean? Grammar behavior is all about showing Google and Microsoft that you are a human. So what does that mean? It means that you're going to click around the accounts when you set them up. You're going to send an email manually from this account to another account that you own. And you're going to reply to that. You're going to subscribe to newsletters. You're going to create a folder in Google Drive. Or you're going to create an event on Microsoft Calendar or etc. You show that you are a real human, and that is extremely important in order to maintain these accounts for a long period of time. What looks less legit than someone that sets up a cold email account, then connects it through OAuth to a warm-up tool, and never logs in again? There is nothing more unlegit than that, right, in Google and Microsoft. So therefore, what you want to do is the opposite. You want to log in, you want to show human behavior, then connect it to a warm-up tool, reconnect to this account at some point again to show that there is a human behind of it, etc. So we did this for all of these inboxes, all of the 670 that are in there and the 500 plus active inboxes. We open them every 2 weeks, manually perform manual behavior in them in order to improve our reputation. And that is why it's been 6 months, none of the accounts were burnt. Zero, none, nilch. And that is because of this process right here that I'm breaking down right in front of your eyes. So make sure you consider that as well. Now, from here, what do we do? Then we're going to consider doing a warm-up system, right? And then from there, we're going to then control the campaign creation, right? Which is going to be lead generation, script writing, and campaign settings. So first, warm-up system. Why should you warm up in the first place, and what is warm-up? Warm-up, in this case, was a tool that we connected our email accounts to that will send emails back and forth with other accounts using that tool. And in order to build, let's call it a credit score. It's like when you were 18 and you got your first credit card, you don't want to go ahead and try to buy the most expensive thing and not pay on time. That's going to destroy your credit score. So what we did in this specific case is we bought a bunch of small purchases, right? And then with the small purchases, we always paid on time and we build our credit over time. In email, what we did is we sent a lot of emails gradually, not all at once, gradually increase the amount of emails we sent. And I'm going to give you the exact settings soon. And then we got replies on those and made our accounts look legit. So the warm-up system that we chose was on Instantly AI for this specific client. For other clients, we also use Smart Lead AI. So you could be considering Smart Lead AI as well. It's another fantastic tool. They're very similar to us. We like both. We're friends with the founders of both of them. And we like both tools once again. So you can consider either or. We chose Instantly for this specific client because they already had affinity with the tool. And so that is what we use for the warm-up system. We ramped up volume gradually, right? Over time, got high reply rates, never turned off the warm-up ever. And actually, I put a caveat, even on weekends, holidays, etc. Never turned off the warm-up, okay? And that is how we decided that we want to set up the warm-up system. Now, why do you do all of this stuff? Let me break it down before we continue. The reason why you do all of this is because you want to become somewhat of a hydra, right? You want to become this entity that if they chop one head off, you come out with two, right? You're impossible to kill unless they're going to burn you, right? And that is what you want to exactly be doing. You want to be creating a system that's so indestructible, even if they take an account out, you come out with other two, and there's no way they detect it's you behind all of these, and you keep on scaling like that. Now, let me put a caveat. If you're doing this for a malicious reason, well, don't watch this video. That is not why I'm recording this. This is if you have a legitimate offer and you can legitimately help people and you legitimately want to do so. You're well intended. And that is why we set up a system that is this good, this anti-fragile in the first place. So just thought to put a caveat out there. Only use this if your offer is actually good. And by the way, there are offers that do not work with cold audiences. Don't even try. There are things that are way too specific and they don't attract cold audiences. So then you are better off considering ads or considering content or considering other avenues. If you want to know if I would run your offer in cold email, well, you can drop a comment down below and let me know what it is. And I'm happy to give you my opinion on it. So feel free to do that if you're interested in hearing my opinion about it. But now let's talk about campaign creation. That's going to be divided into lead generation and it's going to be divided into script writing. So let's start with lead generation. First of all, how do we get that many leads? For this specific client, they were going after a lot of different audiences, some for sales, and I should give away what they were actually selling. Others were for link building. So if you know what link building is in SEO, you can generate links in other websites in order to increase your authority. Not going to go in depth on that, but that is what this client was doing. And it was also generating sales opportunities. So it's both. And by the way, if you think that that diminishes how impressive the system is, link building is actually extremely tough. So anyone anyone that tells you that's easy, it's because they haven't run it to enough scale and they're not actually that big yet. There is a lot to it. There's a lot of caveats in this game, and this machine was able to get a lot of those links very quickly and at a very good lead rate. I call it lead rate even though it was link placements. But nonetheless, this was also used for sales, and some of the numbers that you saw there were sales related numbers. Now, how do we generate the leads? I'm not going to tell you about the link building part because it's way too specific. So I'm going to tell you the sales related aspect of that. So that was through tools such as, and here is a combination of tools. Okay. Now we're going to divide this. Actually, let me go back and let me divide this. We're going to first do companies. Then we're going to be doing people. Then we're going to be doing contacts. Then we're going to be doing validation. And then we're going to be doing extra enrichment. So let's go through one by one. How did we get companies for them? What we did is what is called a waterfall enrichment fashion to get companies. And what it means is we just create this domino effect. If one tool wasn't able to get the amount of companies we wanted, we would combine one more tool. And if both of those tools didn't get the amount of contacts that we wanted, we'd combine one more tool, and we kept on stacking tools. The reason why we were able to do that precisely without adding a bunch of junk data is because we had an automation that was deleting every single company that was outside of our ICP, ideal customer profile. If you want to know how that automation works and how you can implement such an automation in your business, I've recorded another video showing how it works. It's going to be linked down below. You're welcome to check it out later. Now, we did this waterfall enrichment of companies, and the tools that we use for that were very simple. Were Apollo.io, Google overall. So this was Serper.dev. You can check it out. It's one of the cheapest ways to scrape Google. Then we did Panda Match, which creates AI lookalike audiences. So what that means is we could, for example, plug in Dell on Panda Match, and Panda Match would find Microsoft. It would then find Apple. It would then find Huawei. It would then find ETC, right? So it finds lookalike companies that are similar to the ones that you have inputted. And that is extremely helpful if you're running case study based campaigns. So you could always consider that as well. So we combine all of these sources plus, let me put here, and LinkedIn. Those are all of the sources that we use for enriching companies. Then in terms of enriching people, we once again did a waterfall enrichment of people finding. This is not yet getting their contacts. So for that, we use LinkedIn, Sales Nav plus Vein. That is the combination for you to get data out of Sales Nav Unlimited. So we did that combination. And then what we did after that is we used ClayGent to go into websites and try to find decision makers. ClayGent is an AI agent from a company called Clay, and it's able to crawl websites to find specific data for you, which in this case, we used to find decision makers at the companies that we could not find on LinkedIn. So that is how we maximized, once again, the amount of people that we could find. Then from here, we did a waterfall enrichment of contacts. Now, by the way, if you haven't noticed yet, I'm not in the game to build simple systems. I'm actually in autistic mode here. I want to go ahead and I want to get the absolute maximum out of every single one of these processes. And that is why I'm combining all of these tools. That's why I'm setting up all of these systems. So therefore, consider that. If you want to go for the easiest option, this is not the right video. If you want to go for the easiest option, I can record another video and show you how we can find tools that do everything in one place. By the way, quick sneak peek into what that would look like. It's actually Instant AI. They have a lead finder. They can help you validate the leads. They can help you put everything together. They'll help you with campaign ideation, script ideation, etc. You can do everything under Instant AI, everything under one roof. But in this case, I'm looking to maximize my results, which is why I'm setting all of these up. So let's continue. Context. How did we waterfall enrich the context? Well, we did the following combo for them specifically. And by the way, if you want to know what's the best tech combo for your specific industry, you're again more than welcome to drop a comment down below with your industry. And I will tell you what I'd recommend specifically for you, because there are certain tool combinations that work better in different industries. For example, if you go after SaaS companies, there is one tech combination that works the best. But if you're going after agencies, there is another tech combination that works the best. And I can tell you what from my experience has been the best in your industry if you want me to. Now, let's continue. Waterfall enrichment of context. So we did, for the specific client, Lead Magic as the first vendor, to then go into Find Email as the second vendor, Prospeo. Then we did Any Mail Finder. And this is the 4-tool combo that we use for the specific client. And then we validated every single contact. By the way, validation is not a process where you need to do waterfall enrichment, but it is a process where you can do an extra check on catch-all emails. I'm going to explain that now. So for validation, we use bouncer. And the reason why we use bouncer is to cross-check if this email exists and if these are not toxic emails. Use bouncer is a tool that is able to check a blacklist called black box, where it contains all of the toxic emails that were gathered towards the years by the company, email industries, which, by the way, I recommend to check them out. Now, we use bouncer then to check for toxicity and see if our list would actually be good. And we use instant validation actually to check catch-all emails. What does that actually mean? There are some email accounts that you will get that are actually set up in a system where any email that comes in is redirected to an email of choice by the server. So therefore, sometimes you may not land in front of the right person that you wanted to land in front of. And you're better off then validating these catch-alls, making sure that they're real, and then contacting them to minimize bounces and minimize the amount of spam traps and minimize the amount of wrong people that you're contacting. And we use Instantly AI for that. Now, from here, let's talk about extra enrichment. For extra enrichment, for this client, we generated some personalized lines, and the way that we set them up were all through Clay and ClayGent. We did for them job board scraping. So for them, it was an SEO company. So we were scraping for companies that were already trying to recruit SEO related roles. That was number one. Then we scraped news such as acquisiring, right? So acquisition meaning they got acquired. Acquiring meaning they acquired another company. Then product launches was another one. And we did finally funding. So those were the 4 type of news that we were scraping about all of these companies. If they had one available, Clay would then set up a personalized line using ChatGPT 4.0. Now, I know some people are going to be like, why did you not use Anthropic Claude? Why did you not use Perplexity? Why did you not use etc other AI? And it's actually because we had tremendously better results of GPT 4.0 fine-tuned with our examples. So that is why. There is no magic behind it. It's just because we checked all of these lines that were coming out of these tools, and GPT 4.0 was generating the best ones. So no emotions attached to this. Autistic mode on. We just want to go whatever works. We're married to the result and not the method. So that is how we got there. Now let's get into script writing. How did we write the scripts? First of all, for all of the scripts that we launched, we were always maximizing uniqueness. Now, let me break that down for you. This is a trend that we noticed. Let me show you this. So look at this. This is a real graph. I'm doing it in front of you now, but this is actually a graph that we were running in our company. And what it was is it was analyzing the uniqueness of emails with the reply rate, okay, reply rate percentage over time, okay? And this is how the graph was actually looking. We noticed that it looked like this, okay? It had diminishing returns. Let me be very clear. It had diminishing returns in the very beginning, in the very end. So there was a point where adding more uniqueness did not help. But in the very, very beginning, in the very start, at this part right here, let me actually make this see-through, there was a lot of benefits from adding more uniqueness. What does that mean? It means that we want every single email that we send out to look unique. How did we accomplish that? It was through a method called spin syntax, right? So what does spin syntax mean? If you go on Instantly AI and you type in random, hey, hi, and hello, like this, every single email that's going to go out is going to choose one of these 3 words as the only word that's mentioned in the script. Now, if you do this enough times within a script, you get hundreds of thousands of variations, right? If you sum up all of the variations that can come up and all of the possible combinations of every email. So what we notice is that over time, our scripts will not get burnt, will not get fingerprinted, and we would get higher reply rates. And so therefore, this is something that you have to do a lot of. So we started there. That is the most important thing. Now, next, when it comes to offer, right? So whenever you're framing your offer, you have to think about the levers of offer creation, which in email, I call them the 3 pillars of a good offer, which is it's a great offer, then it's going to be a believable offer, and then it's going to be a relevant offer. So let's analyze these lenses, right? What would be a great, believable, but not relevant offer? Let's do that example. A great, believable, not relevant offer would be like you're selling the cure of cancer as a known doctor, but to people that don't know they have cancer. Are they going to buy it? No, unless they want to sell it, right? So therefore, you're not likely to perform. Now, if you were to contact people that had cancer and you're a doctor and you have the cure of cancer, well, you're going to absolutely crush it. And that is what I meant before when I said that not every offer works on code. There are some offers that are way too narrow and they don't perform. For example, let's say you have a tool that helps track better ROAS and have better attribution. Try to sell that to cold audiences directly. It's going to be a nightmare because it's too complicated and it doesn't really make sense and it's not an absolute clear ROI and it's very hard to tie to an ROI without broadening the copy. And so therefore you have to keep that in mind. What is a better offer is you promising the final result and not the actual deliverable. So instead of saying, hey, we have this crazy pixel, you say, we help companies get a 2x ROAS with X, Y, and Z mechanism. Right? So there is ways that you need to frame things in order to make them work to cold audiences. Okay? Extremely important. Now, next thing, what was the frame that we used to write the scripts? So frames. This is our most favorite frame, which is the following. And actually, let me break it down here for you. Let me go down. It's gonna be greetings, icebreaker, question, pain point, ideally, then introduction, case study, soft CTA, let me go down, signature, strong PS line. This is the structure that we use for most of our clients. And the reason why, it's because it just works. Hey, Felipe, just heard your podcast with X person. I find it really interesting that you don't track open rates. And I don't as well, and I get better deliverability because of that. Now, the reason why I'm reaching out is because I wanted to ask, are you right now trying to improve your online content? My name is Felipe, and I help companies like yours improve their content creation with X, Y, and Z technique and reduce time spent on editing by X amount, get everything handled from thumbnails to ETC, blah, 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 everything that they do, such as we've done for X case study. And this is the type of result that they saw. This is the type of increase they noticed. Would it be okay if I share with you the ideas that I have in mind? Let me know. Thanks, Felipe. P.S. This works absolutely best for clients that already have an established agency like you do with X agency. So I'm not telling you to use the script that I just mentioned because that is not necessarily good. I just came up with this offer like right off the get-go and I was like, whatever, let me just mention that. But there are better offers that you could be mentioning and there are better ways for you to be framing that. But the one thing that I would keep is this structure. So what you can do, and I recommend that you do so, is give this to ChatGPT or Anthropic Claude if you're an Anthropic fan, and have it help you create a script with this structure, okay? But don't keep the AI generated sentences like hope this finds you well, or trust this finds you well, or best regards, and all of the things that you probably wouldn't be sending in an email otherwise. So remove all of that stuff, keep only the relevant stuff, and that's the way that I'll go about it, okay? Now let's continue. From here, for this client, we did 3 follow-ups from email 1. Email 2 was just a simple recap of the offer and a mention of a different case study. And follow-up 3 was a complete change in the angle. So we approached the service from a different lens. The first one was on how to make money, and the last one was on how to save time. And we found that that worked the absolute best for the specific client. So that is how we attacked script writing. From here, how did we do the appointment setting? I'll tell you exactly what we did in order to maximize the amount of people that were actually hopping on calls and buying. First, replying within 10 minutes of prospects reply. Extremely important. Second, following up with value only. Third, starting a conversation before giving the valuable item. What does that mean? So let's cover these 3 before we get into the next one. So first, replying within 10 minutes. All we did is install the Instantly app on all of the reps' phones, and they were replying as soon as a reply was coming through. They were replying with value, okay? But what they would do before sharing the value is start a conversation. So for example, if you say, let me know if I can send over some ideas that I have that would work very well for you. And they say, yeah, send me the ideas. What you would do is instead of saying the ideas directly, you would say, hey, thanks for letting me know. I'll be sending the ideas over in a few minutes. By the way, I checked your website and it seems to me like you're selling X to Y industry. Is that correct? And then you let them have the opportunity to reply, yes, that is what we do, or yes, we also do that. And no, we also actually just migrated to this offer, right? And now you started a conversation. Now you look human instead of just a sales rep. And then we shared the value and we shared all of the ideas that we had for them and kept on following up, sharing case studies, sharing looms, sharing more ideas, and sharing more opportunities for them to consider. And that is how we did appointment setting, and that is how it actually worked and made things perform very well. Now, the next thing, and this is going to be the last one we're going to cover in this video, is campaign management. So for campaign management, it's actually very simple. All that we did is send without open tracking on, send without link click tracking on, send as plain text only except for memes. I'm going to explain soon. Then send with a minimum waiting time of 10 plus minutes. Send only work days and work hours. And this is what we did for them. So why no open tracking? Because it's very simple. Imagine you're throwing a birthday party and you're sending out manual invites like paper. Do you care about how many people open the paper or how many people show up to your party? Well, I care more about the last one. And so I'm not going to damage my deliverability at scale because I just wanted to see how many people opened it, because it doesn't really matter. You see that a lot of times a higher open rate does not equal a higher lead rate or a higher intent on lead rate. All it means is that you got someone to open for whatever reason. And it might have been because your subject line was way too tacky, right? And that got people to open, but that's not a good thing. It was misleading and it's not a good practice. Link click tracking is the other thing we kept disabled, although we added links in our campaigns. We added links to Calendly to book a call straight away. Those links were in the signature, and anyone that says you cannot send links in cold email is just not doing the right thing. So you can indeed send links, and we sent it to that volume, and we still got a very high reply rate and a very high opportunity rate. Now, that is what we do in terms of link click tracking. Sending as plain text, very simple, is just removing all of the HTML from the email, unless you are adding memes. On the follow-ups, we were sending memes sometimes, and even the most tacky of the memes perform in this case, like sending Adele saying, hello, it's me, or sending Pablo Escobar sitting in a bench waiting for a response. Those things can still be funny depending on the industry. It would definitely not work if you're going after e-commerce, but it's very likely to work if you're going after, I don't know, hotels, for example, right? People that have probably not seen that type of outbound strategy before. Then the next one is sending a minimum waiting time of 10 minutes plus. Again, you want to have grandma behavior. Would grandma send emails faster than every 10 minutes? She probably wouldn't. And therefore, I don't recommend that you do so as well. And this is something we tested across the board. It always made our campaigns perform better. And last one, send only during work days and work hours. And that is how we conclude all of the things that we did for this client, okay? Now, there is more that we did for this client. I'm gonna keep it to the simple part that you can actually go ahead, implement right now, start seeing some results, and start scaling your outbound campaigns. If you want help with any of the stuff that I share here today, drop a comment down below. I'd be happy to give you some ideas, happy to give you my point of view on how I would run the system if I were you. And yeah, if you found value in this, consider subscribing to the channel. I post a lot of videos like this one, and I have other videos in the channel breaking down this exact system, so feel free to check those out as well. Thanks so much once again, and I'll see you in the next one.